I'm yours. With you. With you.
my name is Claire, for anybody who is joining that is not familiar with me. I'm going to be in charge of the tenant relations subcommittee meetings. And this one is our first one. So I wanted to start by introducing sort of the ideas for what it means and where it could go, and what we're looking to do with this subcommittee. So there's a couple of options, as far as what a tenant relations committee could be. We need tenant input on the project going forward, and we need tenants to be in control of the future of this project. So one of the things that came up in another meeting that I went to was becoming a tenants union and what that looks like and the process for that. I think that it would be really beneficial if we looked into how to become our own entity for a bunch of different reasons. We wouldn't be It wouldn't be run through the housing authority, which gives a little bit more freedoms to the tenants, on how to advocate on behalf of themselves, how to secure funding for things that they want to do, not have to depend on the board to give them the okay to make things happen. And I think that that's a really feasible option that I would like to explore with tenants who decide that they want to join. And that's the other part of this meeting, is that we're looking for tenants to actually join this team, um, and commit to becoming the team. Um, so that we're not speaking for what we think folks need. They actually have a platform where they can be that voice. So that's where my intent is with this. So that question is, I'm going to lead to the board. I want to know who on the board is going to be the other consistent people in this process with me. Obviously, it'll always be open to the board to drop in and share their piece if they have something that they want to bring to the tenant relations, but I would really appreciate having a few consistent faces that are always, who the tenants can revert to when it comes to this committee and the union, the tenant union. So if anybody has interest.
I am definitely interested.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested as well.
And me too.
Oh, Claire, you're muted.
Okay. I don't want to have an overwhelming staff, so I think that that's a good group to start with. And then the next thing that I had was what it looks like moving forward. So the reason that we found this to be one of the priorities is because we have this humongous project coming up, where the future of Bliss is in question in the best way possible. It's not going anywhere. It's just how it's going to look is the conversation right now. And we have to figure out the best way to move forward, on behalf of the residents' needs. So that's a question that we're figuring out how to ask. We're working with HCHC to develop a survey so that we can ask the appropriate questions and get a real assessment of where people are at, what they want their homes to look like, what they want the project to look like. So I think that that's a very important thing for the tenants to be aware of. And yeah, I mean, do any of you guys want to jump in?
I'd happily jump in. I mean, there's also the addition, because there's been discussion of having the office hours. So that's another pretty big thing that you should probably mention. I'll just stop there.
So we had the idea that when we as we're starting this project, we know that other things are going to come up, and we want to be as respectful to the people that live in both Bliss and Columbia Apartments, because I think there's also a misconception that the HHA board is the high-rise board, which isn't the case. We represent public housing or HUD housing. We are the board for the housing authority. So there's other complexes under our umbrella, and we have to branch out and make sure that those folks feel included in the conversations and understand what's happening. So we were trying to figure out the best way to socially distant and responsibly meet with folks face to face, and if they're not comfortable, via Zoom. And the idea I had was floor by floor, we'll break it down and have designated days for each floor to either reserve a slot to have a Zoom call or to meet with the committee down in the community room, a few at a time. And so we're making that calendar, and we're going to get it out to people as soon as possible. And we're trying to find the best way to navigate the Zoom meetings and figure out who's going to be in charge of them, what people's availability are. But in the meantime, if anybody knows of anybody who needs to speak to one of us about something that's pressing, we'll be here. And we kind of want to explain to folks in that time that that this is what we're trying to build a platform for. So you don't have to feel like you have to wait for a meeting time to get your concerns expressed and addressed. And then to that, also in the meeting times, we were looking to have a survey completed to do with folks. We don't just want to drop a packet of questions off to you and hope that you can navigate it or that it makes sense. So we want to sit down with people and have a real discussion about where they're at and how they feel about what's happening. So Rebecca, I don't know if you want to talk about the survey a little bit more. I know we had to hash out some of the wording. Oh,
Yeah.
Marie.
Can I just ask a question, Claire? Because you said something I thought that was really useful here. I mean, several things, but one that you haven't
Mhm.
mentioned yet, which is doing Zoom calls by the floor, which I think is a great idea. You
Yeah,
know,
that's in
to have
we're
a
gonna-
meeting like this for every floor. Yeah.
Mhm.
Anyway,
yeah.
I just
We
wanted to
would
make sure
have
that we wrote
designated.
that down. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So it would all be given out at the same, all the information would be given out at the same time. So we just have to figure out like there would
What time slots, right?
yeah, in my mind, it would be time slots available for face-to-face meetings. And then if you can't attend that, here's the fifth floor meeting time.
Cool.
Unless somebody asks for a one-on-one Zoom call because they're just not comfortable having a one-on-one in
Okay.
person.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll just make that, there's several things.
Yeah. So as far as the survey goes, we've been working with HCHC, and last week we had kind of our first draft of the survey. And, we've been kind of going through it and really figuring out and narrowing down like what do we really want to ask? What are we really trying to get at? And so we have kind of a second draft of the survey that we just want to finalize and go over here tonight, so that we can send it off to HCHC for the next steps. I wasn't sure if we wanted to do that now or maybe go over the flyer. It's
I
up
don't
to
know
you, Claire.
how do you guys feel? We can go over the flyer and then come back to the survey. I don't have the flyer in front of me or the last email that was sent. I know Rebecca, I talked to Rebecca on the phone and she fleshed some things out and sent another suggestion for how we should word things. I know that we have to be mindful of what we can and can't actually say. So if Mike and the board want to give some feedback on what we should put on, we want to narrow it down to a one pager. I really don't want to send out a packet. I want to give them a one pager with the Zoom information and the QR code so that it's something that they can like just post on their fridge and have it as a reference, not just like a one-time flyer, that it actually makes sense and it can be like a guide for them a little bit. So I open it up to you all.
Sorry,
Maria, you're the-
oh, sorry. I just wanted to say I sent the draft flyer to Shaheem, just figuring out the permissions right now. So just give me a moment.
Okay. Marie, you look like you were saying something, but you're muted.
I was asking that,
Oh, okay.
so I'm good. I was just gonna wonder if she had that. Yep.
Shaheem, I sent it again because I gave you permissions, but basically just so everyone knows, this is the draft flyer as sent by Rebecca Wolf, and there's just some wording in here that we are going to need to end up kind of tweaking and figuring out right now. So just so everyone knows, this is a draft. Did that work, Shaheem? All good. Oh, let me just do it to the right one. Oh.
And just for folks that don't know, the one pager is just something that we wanted to pass out to residents, kind of summarizing what the project is and kind of what's on the table around the conversation for the future of Bliss. So I know in the past few meetings, not a lot of tenants have been on the Zoom call. So we want to make sure we're trying to find the best ways to get people engaged.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Is it possible, being that everyone is on a Zoom call and usually everyone is at their home or whatever location, is it possible to have the community room open during these meetings and just have it COVID safe and everyone spread out with either the meeting taking place on one specific computer or in several computers, just so those certain tenants that aren't able to have internet access will actually be able to attend the meeting some way, somehow. The community room is for the residents, and I know during COVID there are certain restrictions, but we did have a successful in-person COVID safe meeting. We did have several COVID safe events, but I anticipate less people than we had at these events and at that one meeting you guys had in person. So I think if you can consider that, that may be helpful. You do have like a live-in maintenance, or you do have a few members that are have residents that live in the building or the low rise, or actually live in the building, that maybe can be that one that assists to make sure the residents are there, and maybe even attach a small Bluetooth speaker to that one particular computer so whoever does attend can hear, and that one person that's in charge, let's say the maintenance, the on-call maintenance, could possibly type in the questions or something.
Tiff, I actually was going to ask the board how they felt about when we might be able to go back to in person. I don't know when the last time we had that conversation was, but I think that with these conversations, it's going to get a little wacky with like 6 different Zoom meetings. You know what I mean? Like it's going to get really confusing. And I think that to not overwhelm folks with like, no, you're not supposed to be at this Zoom meeting. You can be at this one. We need you at this one, but you can kind of listen. You know what I mean? Like if they could just be in person, that would be so much better. And I'd prefer in person also. So I don't know what that looks like to you guys.
I know the city is considering continuing to still have Zoom meetings if we do go back to in-person meetings, just to have that option.
I do know that Shaheem, you once mentioned that it would be possible to put the meetings, like the live stream from YouTube, on the TV. Not only in the community room, if like we end up saying that that's okay to open the community room, but also on the TV, just like right in the hallway in Bliss. Um, just to throw that out there.
Marie, you were gonna
Can I
say
just,
something?
yeah, I mean, I think, uh, Tim, you're here, right? I think that we should be able to come up with a number that would be acceptable and considered COVID sort of friendly, spacing people out, right?
Yes,
For
we can
this.
accommodate that.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, Claire, we'll get that sorted this week and figure out how many people we can put into that community room
Okay.
safely. And I've got it out
Thank you,
as
Tiff.
number 8, but nope, number 7. Okay.
And I think you're talking about like meetings moving forward like every Wednesday, but before the one-on-ones, what Claire is saying is like the one-on-one Zoom. But I understand that you guys should have it open for the meetings, absolutely. But what Claire is trying to do is like more of a one-on-one type of thing. Like they have the option for the one-on-one. But I love the idea of opening the community room every Wednesday, 6 p.m. or so, for people to be on. Like that's a beautiful
Yep.
idea.
Yeah.
But we also have to focus on the one-on-one Zooms that Claire is trying to do for people to understand what's actually going on. And then I
Right.
feel like they will want to come down every Wednesday to see those meetings once they have that actual one-on-one of what's going on.
All right, Rebecca, you were doing the flyer.
Okay, so this is like the wording of the flyer that was kind of constructed earlier, and I think there's like, so I'll just read it. So big changes are coming. Take pride in the future of your home. As many of you may be aware, there is an important discussion happening around the future of Bliss Towers. We want tenants engaged in every step of this process. This is your home. The future of Bliss Towers is still a giant question mark. Your input is what we are missing to guide the decision. We need to choose between 2 options. 1, Bliss gutted and fully renovated. Here's what you need to know. Housing would remain affordable at the same level as it is now. Tenants would be relocated to housing while the work is done. I think the big thing here is just that no one would be displaced, right?
Right.
So do we want to say, here's what you need to know, no one would be displaced, or?
Mhm. Yes,
I-
absolutely.
But I think that just a little bit more detail, because even if you say the word displaced and you're stating that you won't be displaced, it's like, well, where the hell did that come from then? You know what I mean? The word displaced just opens up a ton of questions.
So
Marie.
Can I just make a comment? Yeah. So the idea was, and we don't have to do it this way, but one of the ways to do it is, so you start with a certain number, you gut rehab the apartments that aren't occupied, and then you move tenants out of their current apartments, and they have the choice to be moved into this apartment either temporarily, which is a brand new apartment, or to wait till their old apartment is ready and then go back to it. So it's really, it's either a temporary relocation into the building, or it's a permanent relocation into one of the gutted and rehabbed apartments. Does that make sense? So
yeah,
you might end up being temporarily rehoused in another apartment in Bliss, but you would not ever have to leave the building. So I don't know if that helps.
Wait, what are we talking about here?
We're talking specifically for like the
This
The-
option,
yeah, Bliss gutted and fully renovated as the option.
right?
So here's what you need to know. Housing would remain affordable at the same level as it is now. Like residents would either be temporarily or permanently relocated in Bliss Towers.
Okay.
Does that?
Yeah.
Let me just
Think about that one. Yeah.
like how basically I'm just
I would just say, here's the thing, residents will be rehoused in completely renovated apartments, right? No matter what. They may end up being temporarily housed in the new one, or they may end up moving back to their old one, but the outcome is always the same. That
Yeah.
the residents will be rehoused in completely renovated apartments, and I think that's the focus. But I do agree that we have to make sure people don't think they're ever gonna, have to leave. That's important.
I guess
so
it's one of the things that we can be okay with being a little bit open-ended and plan to address when we have the one-on-ones. Because after the flyer, we have to come up with our
Yeah.
shared language and
Yeah.
how we're going to address the questions anyway. So
Yep, agreed.
Yes.
okay. So
nobody will be displaced is all right.
so let's just
Nobody will be just, yeah.
Hey, Marie,
Yeah,
it's Mike Bruno.
hi, Mike.
As I said the other day in my email, if I were you as the board, I would keep these things as broad as you can. Obviously you want to comfort everybody, but you want to make statements that are as broad based as possible, because you don't know what the situation is going to be. You don't know who the contractor is going to be. You don't know what the requirements are going to be. We don't know what what we're going to have to do with regard to air quality and things like that. So I think it's best to be very broad, that our goals are not we are going to do X, Y, and Z. It's the housing authority's goal is to not displace anybody. We don't want anybody to have to move. We don't want to have this. Our goal is to make sure all of these things are incorporated in, rather than say, you're not going to have to move. That's a very hard statement that I don't know that you can say with 100% certainty today.
Well, so are you saying that the four things the three things that are here don't give you comfort?
What I'm saying is, when it says no one will be displaced, I would replace that statement with our goal will be to have no tenant displaced. That's the way I would state it. As an
Right.
attorney, that's the way I would state it, because that doesn't paint me in a corner that I can't possibly get out of if I have no choice a year or 2 or 3 years from now. Not that this is a
And
binding document of any kind anyway, but what I'm saying is
Right.
I believe that your thought process and the statements that we put out there should be, because this is not, nobody on this board can guarantee these things, but everybody on this board wants those things. So why not say, this is what our goals for renovating Bliss will be to do these things. Our goals will be that, but that doesn't mean but we don't know.
I agree with
Right?
what Mike's saying. I think that I think on our side, like in an unofficial capacity, have to find a way to live up to that goal. Like, we'll say it's a goal in the wording so that we don't leave ourselves up to problems going forward. But I think that everybody on the board, I'm confident in the board, but folks don't know us.
Me too.
So we have to
Yeah.
find a way to solidify ourselves as a trusted entity.
Mhm.
That the word goal
that goes through
isn't
the
just so
process.
open.
I agree with you.
Right.
And I think that goes through the process as you walk through all these meetings with people and send information out, they'll see your commitment to do the things that you say you're going to do.
Right. Yep.
So
Okay.
I'll just change it to here are our goals, right? Is this where we're, let's
Yep.
just, because this is what we will be working to do no
Yep.
matter
Yeah.
what.
Yep.
So here are our goals. Housing would remain affordable at the same level as it is now. Residents will be rehoused in completely renovated apartments in Bliss Towers. No one will be displaced. These are our goals. Then we also should mention the low rises because under the context of Bliss being gutted and fully renovated, we would also be rebuilding the low rise, right?
Yep.
Yes, but I would add that as another, but is that going to be under the same number one?
Well, wouldn't it? Because no matter
I
what,
guess. Yeah, that's true.
yeah.
It would be the same for all of them. I guess it just gets added to the list of all of them.
Right? Because no
Yeah.
matter what, that's what we're
Yeah.
looking to do.
Yeah.
Also, I think that we have to find a way to make it clear that this is not, like, we talk about Bliss a lot and like what that process looks like for folks in Columbia Apartments too. Like they would have the freedom to, I mean, have access to whichever buildings we build. Like
Yeah.
they're not subjugated to Columbia Apartments, whatever that project turns into, and Bliss Tenants to the Bliss building.
Yeah.
Like they just have a secured spot in housing authority housing.
You know what, Rebecca, maybe we should just, in number 2, residents will be rehoused in completely renovated apartments. Just get rid of in Bliss Towers,
That makes sense.
right?
And then get rid of low rise will be rebuilt or
Yeah, no, leave that in there. But,
Okay, great.
you know, in other words, this addresses Claire's comment, right?
yeah.
Because some people might end up in somewhere other than, anyway, yeah.
And either way, the low rise is something that we were looking to start fresh
Yeah,
from
yeah.
to begin.
Uh-oh.
So
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Why not just
Tiffany had a good
HAJ?
comment. Yeah. So where's it?
oh, Tiffany said, why not just
Yeah,
That's a good one.
'Cause they both fall under housing authority, so instead
Yeah.
of getting confused with Bliss and Columbia, just
Yeah.
Hudson Housing Authority.
Mhm.
Well, I'm wondering the only thing is just that we're saying number 1, Bliss gutted and fully renovated. So we're kind of starting it off. And in the first paragraph, we're also talking a lot about Bliss Towers. So this is just another piece of
I
it.
think
So
it's
happening
fine.
around the future of Hudson.
It would just be we could just add it into like what we anticipate we're gonna have to break down when we sit down with people. Like what like HHA isn't just Bliss, but there's already like, you know what I mean? Like we just it would all fall back into our shared language, how we're gonna address these big questions when we do our sit downs.
Yeah.
Just the video.
Okay,
feed.
so I just changed it to, as many of you may be aware, there's an important discussion happening around the future of the Hudson Housing Authority, right? Because that's still makes complete sense. Tiffany's so right about this. So all right, so as far as the wording goes, if we go from here for 1, how does everyone feel so far for that?
For basic, I think it looks good.
Yep.
Okay. The only thing I'm thinking is maybe Bliss gutted and fully renovated and the low rise will be rebuilt there so that Columbia Apartments low rise is included from the get-go here.
Yeah. Just so that it's not, just so that there's no confusion. I mean, because if you don't say that, I think that it leaves it turns the conversation back to bliss automatically. Like,
Mhm.
if we're gonna say HHA, we have to make sure that in each step we include both, so that it starts to resonate as housing authority is both places, because there's that misconception in the community that the housing authority is bliss.
That works for me, what you got there.
Okay, cool. So now here, number 2. So completely new construction with a new vision. And so here I do think we kind of need to change everything. Although if it's here are our goals, that's different. I mean, it's a goal to have 2 years to complete, but it also depends on, the size of the project, right?
Yeah, that's not realistic. We don't have to I don't think we should put a
Yeah, leave
time
that
limit
out.
on it.
Okay.
I agree.
Yeah, because I mean, it might be a multi-phase project that will happen over the course of many years if residents want to choose this option. So, okay, let's see. So let me just do
And I
it.
think it's all right to share, I mean, because it was in public meeting, but I think it's all right to have available to folks like kind of our working timeline that we've set out, and just like explain that as a goal, like Mike said, not as a commitment or like a legally binding timeline to go off of. Like, that this is just what we're thinking. For the sake of transparency, just explain that we do have a timeline, but we can't guarantee how it's going to go. And as soon as we know how the project moves forward, like that's all way farther down the pipeline to
Yeah.
even be able to say.
I mean, it's kind of like under this context, it's the same. The goals are the same, right?
Right.
Residents will be rehoused in completely renovated HHA apartments, but I guess renovated would be new, right? No one will be
Exactly.
displaced. These all continue to be our goals. So in completely new. And then as far as, because do we want to talk about construction here? I mean, it is a thing, right? We're talking about creating a construction environment, a site for a bit, right? So all construction times will be like you know what I mean? Like, we need something that's like all of the construction plans will be communicated and created with your input.
Mike, is that better? Because you had a comment on that in email. I just don't remember exactly what you said.
Mike, are you there? He's still here. I see his.
I'm sorry, I had to take a call for a moment. What was that?
I was asking if what Rebecca made a suggestion around how we address construction in the flyer. And I know you had a comment. I just don't remember exactly what you said about it in the email.
I think, well, it pretty much mirrored what I had said about the first portion, is that I think we have to be, again, goal oriented on what we're trying to do and what we're going to say we want to do. But, we don't know, again, we don't know who the contractor is going to be.
Yeah, no, of
Know
course.
I'm
The
sorry?
way we're wording it now here are our goals, right?
Okay, so I mean, I think one of the things was, I think there was like time limits on the times for the construction and things. And what
Yeah.
I would put is, we will do everything we can to have minimum disruption to your daily life. Everything is going to be involved in us causing as little disruption to the residents as possible, while at the same time getting them a better place to live.
I mean, do you think that that's covered by all construction plans will be communicated and created with resident input?
Yeah, I think that's fine. I think that's
Okay,
fine.
great. So then the other things that we need to add for a new construction are the possibilities for, commercial space, community space, right? Because that's really part of the vision with the new construction.
Mhm.
So I
The,
guess I'm
the
just
only thing I would caution with regard to that I saw in there is I know that there were some specific references to YMCA and things.
Yeah.
And one, I don't know if has there ever been a conversation with anybody from YMCA?
Yes,
And,
actually, I
Yeah,
have
yeah.
spoken with Dave Brown from the YMCA, and he told me to talk to him again in the spring to see what's possible. But there's a lot of possibilities here, and I think that I think the second draft of the survey gets way deeper into it, but I think maybe putting, community space, community services is a way to kind of house all of these different possibilities, right?
I would agree with that. I wouldn't put any specific in. I would do exactly what you're saying.
Fair enough.
If you're gonna put community services, add recreational services so that is a wheel turning in people's heads, because just the words community service has like a systematic stigma to it. Like it just sounds like you're talking about a WIC or
Or like
you know what I mean?
volunteering or yeah.
Yeah.
So to build community, recreational, and commercial spaces on HHA property.
Yeah.
Right, because that makes sense. Here are our goals. Our goal is to build community, recreational, and commercial spaces on HHA property. Okay, great. So
Can I just add that, yes, I think there should be another goal on here.
Yeah.
To diversify, to provide a more diverse housing stock. I don't know how you put that, more to divide, diverse housing opportunities.
Mm,
To provide.
In other words, there are going to be different, there might be 2 or 3 different kinds of buildings here, right?
okay.
Some of them
We
might,
got to think of a different word than diverse. That's
Yeah.
such a
oh,
you
got
know
it. I see what you're
it's like
saying.
a
A more, well, how about just to provide more housing opportunities?
Sorry, by
Because
the
that's
way,
definitely,
I'm editing it, but my internet is not very good tonight, so that's why no changes are being made, by the way.
okay.
Let me just
to
refresh
expand housing opportunities.
Expand housing. Okay, let's do expand. That's a good one. Expand housing opportunities.
to expand, or do we want to say to provide more housing opportunities or to expand?
I like expand.
Cool.
Expand housing opportunities. But I did want to just, I was thinking more in terms of like the sort of,
That there
the
would be
different kind,
townhouses and
yeah, exactly. A mix of housing. How about that? To provide a more, I don't know how you'd say that. I don't know what the best way to say that,
neither.
but I imagine it being a more diverse and dynamic architectural area, right? Things.
Yeah. If we could just think of a different word. I know what
I
you're
get it.
saying. I know what
I
you're
get it.
going to.
I know what you mean. I
Yeah.
know what you mean. I know what you mean. I don't know. Well, it doesn't matter. It's not important right now. I like that.
We lost Rebecca. Yeah, mixed use is kind of
Where's that? Mixed use.
because they're like there's a lot of like I mean, because housing is one of the hot button issues in Hudson right now, and everybody's talking about how to get more. There's some language that we kind of I just don't want to be associated with it. Like, you know what I mean? I don't want them to think that we're selling them another dream or project that sounds like unsuccessful attempts.
Yeah.
And everybody says,
Sorry, my computer.
that's okay. Everybody says stuff like, mixed use housing, or we're going to diversify what housing looks like. You know what I mean? We just have to get across that we are looking at, and we can propose a different
Yeah,
vision for housing altogether. Like find it's like townhouses. We've never had town. That's never been available to folks.
So is this like, sorry, because
We've
oh,
never had. Yeah.
I'm so sorry. I'm having like an internet meltdown right now. So basically, are we talking about like to expand housing opportunities and like what that actually means? Because it's
Yeah, we're
like,
trying to just find a way to get the vision into words in a small way.
yeah,
Just so that it doesn't sound like we're just gonna build another similar structure. Like there's
yeah,
a real opportunity for it to be a completely different neighborhood.
yeah. So we're talking like, you know, like the possibility for a senior housing building, for smaller townhouses, for like family specific housing. Like this is kind of what we're trying to communicate, right?
Yeah.
So
so I just got a suggestion, a greater variety of housing.
should it be to create a greater variety of housing?
Could that work?
Let me just put it under so it's like,
To create
We
or to
plan,
offer?
we produce,
I mean,
we perceive,
it,
offer.
and
I
then
like
we pick it.
variety instead of diversity. I like variety. I maybe even expand the variety that we'll offer.
Yes,
to
because
offer,
that's exactly correct.
wait, so
To expand
To
to expand the variety of housing that
we're
we
able to
offer.
offer. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
cool.
that works.
So do we want to add, we talked about construction, we talked about the fact that the fact that everyone will be rehoused, we talked about the affordability level, we talked about the possibilities for the community recreational commercial spaces, we talked about the fact that we're working to create multiple types of housing. Is there anything we didn't cover? I'm thinking we're good so far.
I agree. I think it looks like a pretty good list.
I don't know how deep into it we want to. I don't know how, if we want to. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if we want to address a little bit of like how the developer will be picked and that folks will be kept in the loop, or like that we have the opportunity to set goals and stipulations in place as we pick the contractors,
Yeah.
so that we let folks know that there could possibly be some jobs coming down the pipeline for tenants, things along that line, but say it in a non-promising way, I guess.
It's a goal.
It is.
Yeah. Okay, so all like how are we gonna word this? Because it just glitched for me for a second. So
Maybe just throw out that it's a process, and then that could be something that we plan to explain, like the RFQ, RFP
yeah.
process of what that means.
That's almost a new line, Rebecca. We're not in number 2 anymore. We're almost in a different, because that applies to both 1 and 2.
But actually, I think I'm lying. I think that I don't want that on the one pager, because I think that's
Okay.
that's too much information. I think we just
Yeah.
want like the basics of the options, and then the deeper conversations follow.
Okay.
Like I don't
Cool.
want to bog them down.
And this is the other thing, is that this is like
Okay.
the first thing that people will see, right?
Right.
And then we have a survey that's coming with it. And then we have office hours that are coming with
Right.
that. And we possibly have in-person meetings. You know, it ends up being like a lot more information
Yeah,
that
I
people
don't.
are.
Yep, I just wanted to be very, very
I agree.
simplistic with real information on it.
And I mean, look, we can make several of these over time. It doesn't, I think we should plan on putting these out fairly regularly, a one pager.
Yeah.
Updates. This is where we're at.
Yeah, that makes total sense. I mean, this is something that Tiffany actually suggested at our last meeting, which is to create a newsletter, right? And so,
Yep.
you know, this can
I was
as a
gonna
part of
say,
that too.
I was gonna say, I think that we
So,
need to figure
Yep.
that out.
Well, this could
okay.
be the number.
I
This could be
it's
the
one of the
first
first
one.
goals. Yeah, but I think it's one of the goals with the tenant relations committee. Like one of the reasons that I do want to get folks on board as soon as possible, because she mentioned the terrace, and I get that newsletter. There's a lot of information in it, and
Yeah.
we kind of wait on it every month for updates. And I want it to be I want a tenant to have that position, and I want to offer them a stipend. So
Cool. Yeah,
Okay, cool.
that would be awesome. Okay, cool. So I feel like Shahim, will you scroll up for a little bit just so everyone can see it in its kind of currently final state? Okay. So are we good then to move forward? Do we think? Anyone have any questions? Anyone from the public?
Are we going to give this back to Rebecca W. just for her final editorial review?
I don't think so. She said that
Okay.
she said she would do the language, and then we could put it in whatever format we want. I just want to make sure that we add the link back on.
Yeah.
And the QR code so that we can put it up in the hallways and people can just take pictures of the QR code also.
Yeah. So I'll just send this
Okay.
document to everyone, and then Claire, you can do like your design magic with it too, because you had that
Okay.
like template.
Okay.
Okay, cool. So I guess we can move on to the next thing. Yay.
And Rebecca's also going to spearhead the survey conversation because I'm on the HCHC board. So I don't want to be in charge of that conversation.
Okay, so Shahim, could we get out of draft flyer time and go into the second draft survey? So just to give everyone some background, we were given a first draft survey by HCHC, and honestly, we needed a little bit more time and space to figure out what questions are we really asking people and what is going to be like provide just useful information not only to us as a board but also to the residents. So we kind of came up with this kind of second draft, and we want to go through it and show it to everyone so that we can take notes on it as the HHA before we give it off to HCHC. So I'm pretty sure there's 4 sections or even 3 sections. So the first section is housing preference. So this I would like to live in, check all that apply, senior housing, family housing, key worker housing, housing with a mix of residential and commercial units. So basically, this is part of what we're talking about in the flyer, right? For the possibilities of, a completely new construction. These are some of the possibilities for housing, the expanded variety of housing that we could offer as a housing authority. So I just wanted to first ask if anyone sees any other types of housing that we should put on here. I had added like artist housing, but
The only reason I would caution artist housing is
yeah,
because people put that in proposals for like mixed use
yeah,
housing or when they designate for low income housing, and it often gets taken up by single artists when
Yeah.
it could be taken up by struggling single families. You know what I mean?
100%.
We don't want to.
Yeah.
Hudson's got plenty
Rebecca-
of that.
Yeah. And so at this point, does this look good to everyone? Senior housing, family housing, key worker housing, workforce housing, and then, housing with a mix of residential and commercial units would be like, a store that someone's living over, basically.
I also want to, I think it looks good. And I had a question.
Yeah.
And I think it's something, I know we still have plans to go over policy and things. I don't know the answer to this. So Tim, you could probably tell me, but for a long time, it's been believed that if you're a convicted felon, you cannot live in HUD housing. Is that still a thing? Because I know there was some confusion not too long ago that there's like a loophole for that.
I can't really hear you. You were breaking up. I think I got the gist of the question. HUD has
Like,
changed their policy
Certain
on
types of
that.
offenses
Several,
can't be considered.
yeah, and I think the look back period has changed. I think we can only look back for, I think it's up to 5 years, and it depends on the severity of the crime. I think you have to look at it on a case-by-case basis, but HUD, again, has changed that policy over the years, and they leave a lot of discretion to the housing authority and the board policy on how they deal with that.
Okay, yeah.
Awesome. And I think that's something that we should
Yeah.
prioritize going forward when
Okay.
we do policy review, because there's a lot of people in Hudson specifically that have been discriminated against and turned away from housing for that very reason. So
ADA accessible housing.
Well, don't we have to have everything be ADA accessible?
No,
Wouldn't
you have to have a certain percentage of units, I believe, have to be ADA accessible. So you'd want to probably know what that population is, and
like
certainly,
literal handicap community apartments.
yeah.
Okay.
Right now they're only on the second floor in Bliss, right?
That's correct.
I had also heard the same thing, that any new housing buildings that are being rebuilt or fixed, any type of public housing, that like now on the second floor there's accommodation for maybe one bedroom for a person with disability. I was told for many years now that any rebuild, all bathrooms have to be accessible, for disability, any type of ability, because it was determined that someone living in let's call it a regular apartment all of a sudden has a disability, and you can't move the person out of their apartment.
Yeah.
And they already have one. So I was told that I'll try to receive that information again, but I was told that from the higher ups that all new apartments had, at least the bathrooms had to be at least wide enough so they can get their wheelchairs in, and all the showers would have to have a rail.
Yeah, so I just looked it up, and accessibility, this is from HUD, accessibility requirements for multifamily housing, both privately owned and publicly assisted housing, regardless of whether they are rental or for sale, must meet the accessibility requirements of the Fair Housing Act when they are located in a building of 4 or more units built for first occupancy after March 13th, 1991. So under that HUD thing, that means that all future housing would have to be ADA accessible, which I think is great.
Absolutely.
So should we take ADA accessible out, or
Marie, you're muted.
should we leave it in
Marie, you're
order
muted.
to find people who have ADA accessible needs, or how do we want to do this?
Marie has. a
Can I
question.
just say something? There are levels of accessibility too, so I think you should leave it in there,
Okay,
right?
cool.
Some people have greater needs, and some of it has to do with where, uh, you position cabinets and kitchens and all things like that. So I think you should leave it on there because there may
Okay, cool.
be some properties that are specific to those
Yeah.
who need more accessible, housing. Anyway, blah, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that makes total sense. And so I guess if we're okay with this list for now, and maybe HCHC will have like another ad for us, but one of the notes was to get a good answer to the above, you'll need to briefly define each of these things. And so, HCHC will be able to help us with that. So the next kind of question is like check one and figuring out what size of residence people would prefer living in. And I'm almost wondering if this should be one of those like like pick your favorite. Does that make sense?
Yeah, like prioritize.
Yeah, a prioritized list. So I'm just gonna add that suggestion for HCHC. All right. So under this, 100+ unit residence, a 60+ unit residence, a 30+ unit residence, a 10+ unit residence, right? So to get a good idea and to also provide visual examples so people can see this is what a 100+ unit residence looks like, right? Bliss Towers is an example of that.
Yeah.
Like this is what a 60+ unit residence would look like, right? So it like gives people some idea of what that actually looks like, and like I just feel like visual examples anywhere we can add that is going to be a good thing. So are we okay with this one?
Marie.
I'm not sure about this one, and here's why. Because you say that a 100+ unit residence looks like Bliss. Not necessarily. You can have a 100+
Yeah, that's what
unit.
can look like.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Could be
yeah,
3
yeah.
stories tall. So that's why I think more what we should do is imagine, I don't know. I'm not sure how to, I don't know why we're asking that.
Okay. I mean, I think also the bedrooms one under it as well is something that is going to be based on people's need, right? So it's possible that we could delete these two as well. Because also the shorter the survey, the better.
Maybe if
yeah.
instead of asking how many units, how much units we want in a facility or a complex, maybe we would ask how many bedrooms do you need? Or, you know what I mean? So we can gauge what's necessary, because there's a lot of families of 5 and 6 that are stuck in a 2-bedroom waiting on a 3-bedroom, and some that need a 5-bedroom, and we don't have that available.
Yeah. The one thing that I was wondering is, can we actually answer that question? Like, Tim, do you know that information of people who are living in a 3-bed that want to move to a 5-bed?
Yes, we do.
So that's something that we do have access to. I just had the idea, and I don't know what you all think about this, but what if instead of the amount of units, we're actually talking about the stories of the building? Does that make sense?
I think yes, but also we have the possibility of not making story high buildings. Like, we don't want to make folks think that it has to be another high rise of some sort.
Yeah.
Or that they get stuck in that mindset when there's like really big possibilities for houses that look like houses. To paint a picture of as far away from project housing as possible.
Yeah. So how do we want to do this? Do we want to just delete these two? Because we can get the bedroom information and we can talk to people directly about all of that too. So
I think we still put the bedroom question on there because we only have the information of people who have asked for that. If they've asked to be moved to a 5-bedroom, that's the information that we have because they're on a waiting list. But that doesn't necessarily mean that's everybody who needs it.
Yeah. So should I do, instead of 4 plus, like add, then do,
Can I make a suggestion here? Because I mean, I'll be honest, if I was given the option, I'm by myself, I would want a 2-bedroom apartment, right? I'd be like, ooh. But the thing is, you may even want a 3-bedroom. The question is, how many people do you have in your household?
yeah,
Because that's going to determine how many bedrooms you're going to need, right? So maybe we should ask that question rather than how many bedrooms do you need? How many people are in your household? How many children do you
Maybe
have
make it
under
a
the age
two-part
of,
question. Because if you,
or make it a 2-parter question? Yeah. Yeah.
And make
because
it-
you can have, like,
Yes.
there's housing standards where you can have 5 people in your house, but if all of your children are girls, you're expected to have at least a couple of the girls room together
yeah,
for availability purposes.
Right.
So you
Right,
ask for the
right.
household composition, and then if you had a choice, how many bedrooms would you like? And then we can
Also,
off that information.
I have a suggestion.
yeah,
Also, keep in mind that even though like everything that you all are doing is wonderful, is absolutely in the right direction, we also want to change that dynamic of fear. And just like Claire stated earlier, it doesn't necessarily have to be children, but we know that some people have large families and they need extra bedrooms and they're in a smaller amount. But the fear is this, right? For many, many years, particularly in Bliss Towers, uh, we were always told if your company stays with you longer than 2 weeks, you're on the verge for eviction. So
Hmm.
when you're writing these questions in a survey, some people might take it as a setup and not like this is an actual survey to determine how many bedrooms, to what's going to be recreated. So something along the lines, because you want to know specifics, or is this survey like just anonymous, and you get in the amount of the residents in the building? Because you don't want to generate that fear of, oh, they trying to just find out, or if I write this down, then they're going to
yeah.
evict all of us.
Maybe we should just
Well,
get rid of these questions
I
for
think
now.
I'm thinking let's just do a, is this, I don't know if it loaded, but I just deleted them. Because these are also all questions that we can talk to people about. And especially if there's a tenants union, like people will be able to organize. So it's like really, it seems like the goals here, right, are to try to figure out kind of housing do people want to live in, right? Which we
Right.
handle with the first question. And then, the next question is, I want to live in the city of Hudson. Yes, no, maybe. I'm still trying to decide. And then
And
asking,
I think also we have like this sense, we kind of have a broad idea just from like the regular housing market that like more people need 3, 4, and some 5-bedroom apartments. So like
yeah,
it should just be a goal to be one of the only complexes with more of those available than usual. Like have plenty of 1 and 2 bedrooms, but at least like have something where like half of the housing will be more bedrooms. Just like we make that commitment as we move forward with the project in whatever capacity tenants want us to move forward in the project.
yeah. I mean, that makes sense because then we're going to talk to people and they might be like, I need a 6-bedroom apartment. Like,
Yeah.
make this happen. And so, okay. So, do we feel good deleting those? It starts it, I would like to live in, check all that apply. And then the next question is, I want to live in the city of Hudson. Because the real question here, right, is if you were offered another home in a different Hudson location, would you move?
I understand why. I'm not sure for the purpose of moving forward in the project if like
Yeah.
that would open a big discussion. Just like something
Yeah.
that we don't have as much control over. Like
Yeah.
we have the possibility of making this project because we have land, money, and ideas. And a lot of the reasons that people wouldn't want to stay in Hudson is for the way that Hudson itself is moving. And that's out of our scope of, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. So maybe instead of asking people, do you want to live in the city of Hudson? The real question, which is the real important question, is if you were offered another home in a different Hudson location, would you move?
Yeah.
I think the correct way to ask that question is, would you want to apply for a Section 8 voucher to move outside of Hudson? Because in all reality, that would be the options of someone that's living in public housing.
Yeah.
It's either they move out on their own or they take a Section 8 application to move.
And this is right. Correct me if I'm wrong, but from my understanding, in April, so next month, all of the vouchers that people have of Section 8 become mobile automatically. Am I right about that? I thought that was part of the RAD conversion.
That's
I'm not
correct.
100% sure when that is in full effect. If that
I'm pretty sure it's
starts
April.
this April.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
April, next month.
Yeah,
Tim.
it is
Yeah, I
April.
would say then surround your question around Section 8 because otherwise it's like unnecessary.
So, okay, so if you were offered,
Section 8, would you remain
Yeah.
in housing authority or would you move?
Yeah.
does because it's almost like, and part of this survey too, right, is to like create a space where yes, you're answering questions, but you're also learning. Because like, how many people do know that their vouchers are being converted to mobile vouchers next month, right? So this is also a space to educate people that maybe got that thing in the mail like a year ago and didn't quite put two and two together, you know? So how can, I'm just trying to get the wording right here. And do we want to get rid of this question?
I'd like to vote to at least, I'd like to make a case for keeping it for a minute, for just a moment, because while we're going through the development, you know, we are aware that there are other developments on the horizon
Yeah.
where people could potentially use their mobile voucher to move to a different location in Hudson during the development phase. So I think, you know, this is, you know, the question is how many people would be willing to consider alternate housing while we're going through the development. Some people might. So it would be good to know. Some people would be like, no, I don't want to leave the area. I want to
Yeah.
stay right in this community, and that's fair enough. So I think that's my case for leaving it in there.
So Tim, what would be the wording for like, you know, all Section 8 vouchers will change to be mobile? You know what I'm saying? Like, can we put a sentence in here that will tell people what's going on with their Section 8?
I think the language that Tiffany presented is good.
Okay, so
I have a question.
yeah.
I agree with Tiffany that it's important information that needs to get out. Is it something that we want on this flyer, or do we want to make a commitment to explaining this as a board to folks, finding a way, because RAD is confusing as it is if you haven't been paying attention to what RAD even is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I mean, yes, it should be on this in some capacity, but we also have to dedicate some time to sending out some educational information on
Yeah.
RAD and what it actually means too.
100%. So
We're on the survey though, right?
yeah, we are.
Okay.
Right, that's what I'm saying. I don't want to put too much on the survey, or have too many like we're trying to avoid the fear factor of
Mhm.
things.
Yeah.
And if you're not aware of what rad is, that's gonna, I mean, there's negative conversations about rad that happen more often than positive conversations about rad.
Yeah. So for this question, do we think like this wording is okay? Like with your mobile Section 8 voucher, would you prefer staying in Hudson Housing Authority housing? I feel like the wording isn't right.
Well, maybe HCHC can play around with that. Do we have to get it absolutely right? I mean,
Okay, yeah.
these are our
Yeah,
base,
yeah.
these
No,
are
we
our
don't.
notes. So I think,
Yeah, these are
give
our notes.
yeah.
Okay, so do we feel comfortable? Now we have the mobile Section 8 voucher in here, and HCHC will help us figure this out. We can move on to Section B. Yeah? Okay, so
Yep.
Section B is land use preference, right? So we can obviously have different names for everything. So I would like to have a community center at the Hudson Housing Authority. Obviously, the wording of all of this can change, and so I'm just going to move on. If yes, what services would you like to see? Check all that apply. Head Start, youth services, Hudson daycare, skills/workforce education, continuing education, art/music resources, gym, pool.
I have a question.
Yes.
I know that we've had talks about the Hudson daycare, and I know that in previous conversations they've been at the table. Are they aware that this conversation has resurfaced and that they're in the mix?
I'm pretty sure they are aware, but why don't we
Okay.
say daycare services?
Okay.
Does that feel better?
We do want it to be the Hudson daycare though. If we do
Yeah, we do.
find space for daycare services, we do want it to be that organization.
Yeah,
But
just like
I just
youth
yeah.
services, it's like,
right.
so, okay, cool. So
I
does
just
that
didn't
feel
want to
better?
throw them out there and then they hear like, oh, you guys were on the survey, and they're like, what the hell?
Yeah.
You know.
Okay, cool. So do we feel like these are all good things to add? Do we want to take stuff out? Do we want to add other things?
I think it looks good so
I would
far.
add youth and senior services. Sorry.
We have youth, so we'll do youth services, daycare services, senior services, skills, workforce education. Continuing education sounds like we're building a school.
I wouldn't add it. I mean, if there's as long as folks know that there's a space for us to be able to accommodate other organizations that can offer those services,
Yeah.
I think that's fine. I don't want it to sound like, again, we're creating this utopia of promises that we can't fulfill.
Yeah. Okay, so I mean, art and music resources ties into youth services, senior services, all of that stuff. So we could also get rid of that because that is more in the realm of at least my idea of a utopia. Do we want to get rid
like
of
it? I think you should. I personally
Okay.
would keep it.
Okay, let's keep it. And now we're going to move forward. I would like my outdoor space to have, check all that apply, gathering spaces, murals/public art. And this question has a connection. So if selected, any suggestions for the artist? I know there's been a request to do a mural, and I think this will be a good way to gauge whether or not people want a mural outdoors. Basketball court, handball court, which is what's existing already, playground, a community garden, a solar powered fountain, a smoker shed, a grill, and then other. I think possibly we could get rid of the solar powered fountain, even though it's a really cool
I just
idea.
threw it in there.
How does everyone feel? Do we want a solar powered fountain on there?
Why not?
I think that
That'd be
if
cool.
we build a playground, we could just throw that in there.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay.
Also, all right, and maybe I'll just wait. Sure, we can ask about a mural, but as a board, I would really like to talk to y'all about that proposal that we got.
Yeah. Don't worry about that. I mean, I think that it's
Okay.
an important thing to ask people what they want, and I think it's also
Right.
important that if you want a mural to be able to like suggest an artist, and there's a lot of artists that are already living
Right.
at the Hudson Housing Authority. Amazing artists.
Yep.
So,
Yep. Those people should be highlighted.
yeah. Are we cool with this question?
Yep.
Okay, moving on. Would you be interested in having commercial storefronts at the Hudson Housing Authority? Yes, no, not sure. I need more information.
I think that's fine.
If yes, what sort of commercial storefronts would you like to have near your home? This is another question where we could possibly list. Right? And I think
Rebecca,
you already
can I just, yeah, the problem is you're going to have exactly the same list in the next series of questions.
Yeah.
So you're kind of setting the next question up, which is why in a way, one should be open-ended and one should be a list.
Okay, great, cool. So if yes, what sort of commercial storefronts would you like to have near your home? And this can be open-ended. And then do you have a business idea? Would you be interested in renting a commercial space in your community? Yes, no, not sure. I need more information. I think not sure, maybe, depending. I always like maybe because it's more flexible.
Yeah.
Are we good so far? I heard an
Can I actually suggest something here? Just thinking about this, maybe we should switch it around. Maybe we should provide this list to tenants and say, which kinds of businesses would you prefer to have? Would you like to have check any that apply in your neighborhood? And then just ask the open-ended question to people who might want a commercial space. Because there aren't going to be as many people who are going to answer yes as there are people who are going to want, amenities nearby. So yeah, what kinds of or what kinds of businesses would you like to have near your home? Services, something, whatever. Yes. Yeah.
And
that
kind of
is-
so good. Sorry.
Oh no, I was just saying I just copied and pasted it. I'm just editing it now. Claire, all you.
Okay, I was gonna say, sort of to what Marie is saying. I feel like if we ask folks, would you like to rent a commercial space? A lot of people will say yes, and I welcome that. But I think it'd be even more targeted to ask, like, if they're already a business owner or if they'd be interested in becoming a business owner instead of just like, would you like to rent space? Because, there's a whole
Totally
process that would have to happen before you are able to rent a space.
Totally agree.
Are you a business owner or are you interested in becoming a business owner?
Would you be interested in?
Do you have a business? Do you have a business or a business idea? So the first line here, rather than do you have a business idea? Do you have a business or a business idea? You see
Yeah,
that?
because it's also one of those things that with what the mayor just did, that it could kind of be misleading, like where that plug, you know what I mean? Because it's all happening at the same time. And that we can point them to those resources, but we're asking for a specific purpose. And if you just offer out space to be rented, so many different things pop into people's heads about what they can do with the space.
So idea. So Tiffany, what do you think's a better word than idea?
Just leave it the way Claire suggested it. Are you a business person? Are you interested in having a commercial space? Because if you're asking, do you have a business idea? what are you providing to help that person with their idea? Are you
Right.
doing classes? Are you doing business course? Or you're setting yourself up for something that
Okay.
you may not be ready for as of yet. But if somebody has a business already, that may be possible to help them with a commercial space. They may have their tax ID and everything and ready to go. So I think what Claire suggested is best. Unless you
So
guys are prepared to have business courses and teachings and so forth to help
Yeah.
that person with their idea.
So is it now, do you own a business and are you interested in operating a commercial space? Yes, no, maybe I need more information. If yes, what is your business?
Yep.
Does that feel better?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Okay, so section C, current housing. I feel satisfied living at the Hudson Housing Authority. All of the time, most of the time, some of the time, rarely, or never. What do you like most about being an HHA tenant? What do you like least about being an HHA tenant? How do we feel about this framing?
It's necessary.
All right. I am satisfied with the services the Hudson Housing Authority provides me. All of the time, most of the time, some of the time, rarely, never.
Yep.
Please rank the services HHA provides. 4 is excellent, 1 is poor. I don't know about this one. Are we saying specific services?
can I
Yeah,
make
I
a
don't know about-
suggestion? This is gonna, yeah. agree.
I don't think, because we don't I mean, we are we kind of resource out more than anything. We don't really provide a ton of services, and it's a little misleading because it could be like, oh, what services are we talking about?
Exactly.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
are we
yeah.
then, I deleted it, but are we also okay with the wording of this one? Because it's, I am satisfied with the services the Hudson Housing Authority provides me. I mean, that can be so many different things, right? Housing, Section 8,
I think that should be
delete it.
there should be a space under that for, I don't know how to say it, but I think that I think that one is simple enough that it we can ask, like, are you happy with what is brought to you? You know what I mean? Because they do resource out, and there are folks that come in, and if not, what's missing? You know what I mean?
Okay, yeah. So like
Maybe the question should be, what's missing? You just, because you guys already started with changes in the lobby and changes in not every apartment, but certain apartments. So you're going to have questions that's answered like, yeah, I'm satisfied because these are people that been living in such neglect for so long that right now it's amazing anything that's happening in a positive direction. So
yeah.
Right.
we want to get answers that dig in deeper, because right now you have people that are happy with the changes, even though we know that it has to be, deep rooted changes.
Yeah.
But right now,
Right.
certain people have new refrigerators, right? That they've been waiting on for years. Some people have new cabinets. So they're going to be like, yeah, I'm satisfied, because they don't know what other opportunities that are out there that they can receive.
Yeah.
Tiff, I when I think of this question, I'm thinking of like you know how the women's group comes in and offers their services. Like, I want to find a way to get folks to think about those things. Like, what else would you like? What else do you think is necessary to be brought in, or that the housing authority uh can offer to you, or help make accessible? Find a way to say
Absolutely.
that.
Yeah, like what else
Uh-huh.
can we do to help you, living in Hudson Housing Authority? Something along those lines. How can we help? While
That
you're living, with children and family, provide resources and services that can help you find a new job, find a location, find another better school, or find tutors or anything like that.
That's why I think like are you happy with the services? I think that's okay. And then leaving room for like we could even put example in
Well, let
the
me ask
next
you this:
question, like
what
what
actual
resources.
services are they providing for the
Right.
tenants?
So like in the next question where it says which resources and services do you wish you had access to? Example. Then we could put little things like GED classes, tutoring, healthcare, like just a few short just to gauge what we're asking for.
Is this like we could say exactly what you're saying, and then we'll just have another list of stuff
Yeah.
here.
Yep.
So, but I just want to make sure because the question that's like, I am satisfied with the services the Hudson Housing Authority provides me. Does this feel way too open ended and stressful for people? Because
Yes.
it's not, yeah.
Yes.
So I think possibly if we got rid of that question, because if we look above, I feel satisfied living at the Hudson Housing Authority is the first one in this part, right? And then it's what do you like most about being an HHA tenant? What do you like least? And maybe the framing of this should all be different. And then I
Maybe.
think this
I
is
think
stuff
so.
that HCHC like and Tiffany,
Yeah.
all this wording, like this is all flexible. We just want to make sure
Yeah.
that we have a survey that's like getting to the root
Yeah.
of what people need. So let's leave it like this for now, just in the interest of time, and then we'll figure this out for our final draft. Does that sound good?
Okay.
Yeah, and
Okay.
I'm really all for Tiffany and HCHC taking this part and running with it because this really needs to get fleshed, all of it in the next line too. I think the next page as well. So yeah, we shouldn't answer all the questions here because I think, that's
Yeah, we are almost done. And it is, yeah. Okay. So these are questions that, do we need to have, do we not need to have, but will you use the community room when it reopens? When the community room reopens, will you use the public computers? What kind of resources would you like in the community room? Check any that apply. So just kind of providing all of these possibilities for resources. So then at the end of this survey, it says, the Hudson Housing Authority is currently working on a new development and we need your help, right? So basically the wording of this, I guess, kind of implies that, no matter what, we're working on a new development, right? Even if it's, a gut rehab of Bliss Tower, or if it's the other option, which is a completely new construction. So can we contact you directly about our development plans? That's a little forward. I think this part all needs a lot of work. But the whole idea is that you're getting at like, this is what's happening. Like, do you want to be involved? Do you want to directly organize with fellow residents? If yes, would you be interested in forming a tenants union? Right? Maybe I need more information. Then we would be able to like compile that information. But this is all stuff HCHC can really go through and like make real. And then the board has been holding weekly meetings to discuss this new development and needs to hear your voice. So then this is just about access. So do you have access to a computer plus internet or a smartphone? And then people can say, yeah, I have a smartphone. I have all of these things. I don't have either of these things. Do you need assistance gaining access to Zoom? And then Marie suggested we actually explain Zoom and how to get there and all of this stuff, which makes a lot of sense. So kind of giving like a brief, like this is how to do the thing. And then maybe a space for people, if there is confusion, to be like, either call this number or send an email to this email and we will help you, right? And I'm happy to like monitor that and make sure that people can get into these meetings if they want to come.
And I think it's important also because it's not just for the board meetings, but like just to explain to folks like this is literally about to be your way of life. Like if you can't get to the doctor or you're afraid of COVID and you're not willing to go to the doctor, like telehealth is a thing, school is a thing, meetings
Yeah.
are a thing. Like this is how you should just have access to this information anyway.
Yeah. And then also, I mean, with the question about the internet and computer, right? I mean, this is another thing, right? The community room is closed. So people who had access to a computer and internet
Right.
before no longer have access to that. So it is the possibility for another question that allows us to know who doesn't have access to these things and to possibly help them gain access to those things, right? So that's
Yeah.
the goal within here. So
And
cool.
Tim, to
Oh, sorry.
that, that's all right. It's kind of off the topic of the survey. I just wanted to squeeze it in before we get off the meeting. But if we are able to plan times for like in-person meetings, can we find a way to have like a schedule available for folks to come in and use the computers, maybe one at a time, and then we come in and clean after, so that that's not inaccessible anymore?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Great. Okay, so just a last couple of things here. So we're going to make sure to explain Zoom, explain the process, make sure that people know, and then give an additional space for people to ask questions, like not in this survey, but just in general. And
Yeah.
then it says, if you can't access the internet, no problem. The board will hold COVID safe in-person office hours in the community room. And I just put over the next 2 months, but maybe we don't need to put a timeline.
Right.
So, and I'm just going to bold this because this is like one of the things. And then, would you like to attend? If yes, what time? It's almost like even if people say no now, we still want them to be able to access it if they change their minds, you know?
Yeah.
Because people can change their minds. So, this is just kind of a way to like gauge what's the best timeline for us to actually have these office hours and to use the survey to do so, if that makes sense to everyone, or if this is just like way too much info at once and we can do this in another channel.
I mean, we want the office hours available before the survey. So it might be unnecessary because we might have already started and created our process by then.
Okay, cool. So I'll say the board is holding.
Yep.
Just so people know if they didn't know already, and we'll just kind of get rid of this. I deleted it, but it's
Yep.
taking a bit to load. And then the last part is, if you would like to stay in touch and receive additional updates on the project, please provide a way to reach you. But this is another thing. I mean,
It's anonymous, right? We're not
yeah.
asking folks to, so no.
So let's definitely, we'll just leave that out. We make sure people know exactly where these meetings are, exactly how to get on them, and exactly what to do if they don't have internet, because we'll have office hours. And even if we get our office hours set up, we can put them on the survey. The
And
final
have
survey.
we, in the partnership with HCHC, did we establish that they would act as a liaison, or are we just committing to the tenant relations committee being the go-to? Because I feel like whoever it is, that contact information should be on the bottom of the survey also.
Yeah. I have the
Can I ask a question about
budget.
that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, can we do that? Can HCHC do that within the budget? Because that would be the preference if they can.
I'll talk to them and ask them how they feel about it. I think it would be a capacity thing more than a budget thing. So,
Yep.
because it'd
Got it.
probably be me anyway, it would just be about which hat I'm wearing
Right.
when I do it.
Yeah.
Got it.
And Tiff, because obviously,
Got it.
I mean, she's the older person. So it'd be just about which hat
Yeah.
will be the go-to people, just what capacity we're doing it in.
Okay.
Cool.
So if we can, great. If not, we'll do.
Okay, so we've made it through the second draft of the survey. And so with everyone's okay, we'll just send this off to HCHC tonight.
Awesome.
Yay, we're moving forward.
And that flyer, I'm gonna put it in a template tomorrow morning, and
Okay,
hopefully
great.
we can just get that out as soon as possible so that these meetings aren't just us staring at each other's beautiful faces anymore.
That's great that we might be able to do safely, COVID safe in person.
Yeah.
Because that would be great to be able to be in there and to directly talk to people.
Yep.
Okay, so I just forwarded the flyer. We got the survey, send that to HCHC tonight. So Claire, what do you think?
I'm looking. I was gonna open it to public comment, but ain't nobody here really from the public. If there is anybody that would like to say anything, feel free at this time. Otherwise, we're going to, say goodnight. Do 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 do. Guess not. All right.
Everybody enjoy their evening and dinner.
Thank
Good
you,
night,
Tiffany. You
You
too.
too.